Well, I have just gotten home from the game. UNLV fans, Dan Mullen's opener versus Idaho State was a lot of words. I'm going to be very kind and say that it was underwhelming. Let's break down the game, guys. A win's a win, but lots to fix. This is the Let's Run podcast. Folks, welcome to the show today. It's tough when you have a crazy long off season. You're so excited for football. You just want to see your team play. To have that be the performance is rough, but it is a win. And while it's not a win to be proud of, or it's not a win to puff your chest out, at the end of the season, after week one, UNLV is 1-0, and so. There's going to be a lot of reactions about, thanks, Bill. I appreciate you, man. Bill's a great guy. I always appreciate your support, dude. So, thank you. I appreciate it, man. There's a lot of things to go over here. Let's pull up the game stats and let's just talk about it. Let's talk about the environment. Let's talk about the players. Let's talk about the coaches. I think it's fair to kind of lower, it's tough because it's a week 0 game. None of these guys have ever played together before. The coaches clearly haven't coached in a while. I don't think that this is, on any single individual part of the team or the program. I think it's a top to bottom thing. You can probably lay it on the feet of Dan Mullen, as the coach, is the guy where the buck stops with him. UNLV's defense, offense, even their offense a little bit, aspects of it, just were not prepared to play today. There were dumb mistakes being made. They seemed scared. They seemed timid. And ultimately it led for a very strange, it was probably, honestly, and please, if you were at the game, I know that I tried to start it a little bit later just so we could get some people that were at the game that are leaving into the live show. But it was one of the most bizarre college sports environments that I can remember. It didn't feel like a game. Like, it didn't feel like how Allegiant Stadium, is supposed to feel. You could tell that with pregame stuff, with even just like the concessions, the workers, everything felt off. Everything felt just like it was kind of hastily thrown together. And in a way it was. I mean, this game was not supposed to be played in week 0. It was supposed to be a week 3 game. And so, in context of that, like, I guess starting from the beginning, the pregame intro was off. It wasn't good. Dan Mullen had talked about a new pregame kind of show before the start of the game. And it was bizarre. It was this weird, like, little rock intro. And it was like, the show is here. And it didn't work for me. I didn't like it. I liked what we did last year more. There wasn't a good crowd. The announced attendance apparently is just over 25,000, which, again, it's a rescheduled game. It's late summer. People did not know that this game was going to be played this week. And so the crowd was bad. The crowd couldn't really get into the game because the defense couldn't get stops. Even on offense, guys were getting shuffled in and out of the game the entire time. And it felt like Dan Mullen just wanted to see what he had, just wanted to play everybody, which I think he played far more players than he should have played. But ultimately, because of just miscues, bad coaching, lack of confidence, lack of everything, the game ended up just being an absolute cluster bleep of crap. It was a poorly officiated game. I think both teams UNLV had a couple of really tough calls against them. Where honestly, just the call on the field was made and it was the wrong call on the field. And the thing I hate about refereeing and about officiating in college sports, I was incredibly stressed out. And guys, please leave your comments here in the chat. I'll put them up on screen. You can tell me what you think, what you felt, how you felt during the game. I'm going to try and keep this live stream going for a fair amount of time, just to let the most number of people that can get into it. But yeah, it fell off from the beginning. Even walking up to the stadium, there wasn't the usual tailgate scene that we're kind of getting more used to. People were kind of just hanging out in Allegiant. The fans weren't into it. And then I feel like everybody was just ticked the whole time at our defense. And so we did not have a home field advantage today, like, at all. Like, it was actually almost, I would say, detrimental to have played this game in Allegiant Stadium, because the fans were so visibly and audibly just hipped the entire game, and rightly so. Like, this team did not seem prepared. Adrian says this defense couldn't stop a simple HB draw or wide receiver screen. They didn't seem like they had a clue what their roles were. They didn't have confidence in their positions. They didn't know when they were going to be in the game and when they were not going to be on the game. And listen, yes, UNLV did have calls go against them, but like, their defense was playing so bad that there was still like no excuse. UNLV, it does not, like, those calls, sure, they suck, but ultimately they don't really matter. Like, we were playing so bad that it doesn't really matter if you have calls goes against you, because everything that went wrong was within your hands, within your control. And so that's where I'll kind of start out. Weird environment, guys. It did not feel like a college football game. It felt like an open practice. It really did. I've never experienced a game like that before. I've never been in an arena where people were excited at the start of the game and, but kind of lazily coming in thinking this was just going to be a whatever game. And then because of how the team came out, instantly the entire crowd turned against UNLV. I mean, like, they were still cheering, guys. I mean, let's not go too far. They were still cheering their team on, hoping our team would win. But our entire crowd was like against our defense and against the whole team from the beginning of the game. And that's kind of a tough position to be in. It just felt like the guys didn't have confidence. And that's a bummer. It's ultimately, when you win the game, you can't go to sleep and be upset. You won, you're 1-0. And while the hype around UNLV as a team that can win 9-10 games, that can compete in the Mountain West, a lot of people, I have never said that UNLV was going to be a team that competed for the college football playoff this year. I thought they would compete in the Mountain West, but I didn't think they'd be a team that would compete for the college football playoff this year. But some of that hype's died down, and rightly so, guys. Like, people are going to clown on UNLV today a little bit. It was certainly happening during the game, and that was really tough. Like, it is completely fair for people to laugh at our expense a little bit here. And during the game, totally, it was fair, because we were just playing in, it was an embarrassing effort on the defensive side. And it was an embarrassing effort, not just from the players, but from the coaches. It was really embarrassing. And so Master Rebel says, sometimes you shake off the rust and get back to it. Sam Houston State may be too rusty in the first game. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what. My mistake. I cut myself off there. I don't really know what to say or expect from Sam Houston State next season, or next week. I'm not sure what to think about that program. Sam Houston's they were good last season, but they lost their coach. They lost a lot of players. They don't have a great home field advantage. I'm sure they'll have a decent crowd there, but their stadium is not very big. Certainly, if the Rebels play like this next weekend, they're going to get crushed by Sam Houston, who is projected to be one of the worst teams in the FBS. After this week 0, absolutely, dampening the hype on UNLV is absolutely fair. But to be fair to UNLV, they're still 1-0. They still have a chance next week. They go out and beat Sam Houston comfortably, which I don't know what the line's going to be now. I imagine UNLV was favored, I believe, against Sam Houston by like 10. And I imagine that line will change pretty drastically here. And so I just want to say there's a few things that we should keep in mind about this game. One, it was rescheduled. We were never supposed to have a game in week 0. 2, it was UNLV lost its defensive coordinator halfway through the offseason. Paul Gunther, who is a guy who's been fired by how many, 6, 7, 8 NFL teams, is currently our defensive coordinator. And 3, I don't think that this team, this staff, these players, I don't think these guys know who the best players are on the team. And yeah, Red Ombre says we all need to relax. It's week 0. Yeah, it's tough to relax when you get on social media and you see fan bases of other teams clowning on you for that performance. But because we won, it will not hang over our head. It will suck in the moment. It will suck today. It certainly sucked while we were watching the game. But because we won this game, this result will not ultimately hang over our head or matter at all in a couple of hours even. Nobody's really going to care. If UNLV comes out and beats Sam Houston next week and the defense, figures some things out, like, nobody's going to care about this Idaho State game. And last season, I think it's a good indicator of this. But last season, Oregon was the number one team in the country all season. They were, or not all season, but they were one of the best teams in the. Yeah, and the hype can get to your head a little bit, and like UNLV had really high expectations coming into this game. Like everything was supposed to be golden, and the hype, I think, on offense, I think some of the hype is justified, but with defense, guys, there's just so many question marks about this team, and there has been all off season, and it's why I had them at 8-4 this season, and I felt like that was a completely fair record prediction. Obviously, after a game like this, it's hard to say that they're going to be better than like 6-6 or 7-5, but at the same time, like it was a lot of hype, and it's okay. It's okay. Dustin Martinez, I'm not sure if this is a UNLV fan. Dan Zero maybe should spend less time at golf courses and Kenny Chesney concerts and more time actually being a football coach. Their expectations with $3 million contracts, pathetic display. Dustin, I would say that I agree that I'm very disappointed in Mullen's performance as their head coach today, but I feel like with a win, I will more, I will evaluate him more at the end of the season. Obviously today as a start, just about as bad as you could have, just about as bad as it could have gone. But actually, no, not just about as bad as it could have gone because we won the game. And so there you go. I don't think we got a sack in this game. Masked Rebel says, did hastily rescheduling a game affect the prep a team typically has one prior to 1 week in the week 1 in the summer? Yeah, it totally did. Like the coaching staff had to redo their training schedule to get these guys ready for this game, and they weren't ready for this game, And so I think that amidst all, especially the defensive side of the ball, was not ready for this game. And I don't feel like Coach Mullen and the defensive staff were playing the best players. Like Justin Flo, I thought looked really good, and he wasn't playing that many snaps. I was like, where's this guy's snaps? He's got 4 tackles. He's got a tackle for loss. Like, why isn't this guy on the field more? Reb for life. Too many promises made to get players here. The player rotation was terrible. Yeah, I also think that when Mullen was recruiting guys, and sometimes when you do this happens, especially early on in the season, you kind of tell players that you're going to give them a chance to play. And, coaches feel like they have to fulfill that promise. And so they'll say, hey, you can play, I promise you'll get a chance to play. When in reality, like, I don't think Alex Orji was bad by any means. In fact, I think Alex Orji played a fine game, except for that horrific fumble. And again, guys, we had Idaho State definitely made almost as many dumb mistakes as we did, maybe more. But, we had our fair of, 2 missed field goals from within like the 35-yard line or 30-yard line. A goal line turnover by Alex Orji in the first quarter. Like, come on. Like some of this stuff that was going on was so ridiculous. I mean, like everything that could go wrong did go wrong, except for losing the game. And so yeah, I genuinely worry about the defense moving forward. Those kids didn't win at any level today. What I would say is Mullen needs to shrink the defensive rotation a little bit. He needs to sit down with the defense and say, hey, I'm playing guys that want to win, that are going to be competitive, that are going to go out there. And I don't think he did that. Like, I don't think he had a small enough defense. Like, he was letting too many guys in. I mean, our 3rd, 4th string guys were getting in today. Maddox Matson would have used the final 8:51 and what? Yeah, that was a really depressing drive last year against Boise State. This team can get better, but it's pretty tough right now. Let's see any more comments we hear. How did I get home so fast? I left my dog, and I was worried about her, and so I left with like 6 minutes to go or 7 minutes to go in the game, and I booked it home just so I could make sure my dog could get outside and wasn't alone anymore. And I wanted to get the live stream up a little quicker, just because I knew people would want to kind of rant and rave about this. Jordan's one of my favorite guys. Hope you guys are following him on Twitter. 4 years ago, I would have been ecstatic about this, man. This is extremely disappointing. At this game, not been moved up, and we played Sam Houston week 1, we would be winless, and there would be some good things to point out. However, overall, this was embarrassing. Brian P. Browning says, little trouble with them boys from Pocatello. Yeah, I never, like, all of the hype about the over. I mean, UNLV was favored by 30 points in this game. I think that UNLV probably, in a lot of, if you play this game 100 times, I think UNLV probably wins it by 2 to 3 scores most times. But this was just kind of an odd game, and there was rust for both teams. I never thought UNLV was going to cover. If you see any of my pregame stuff, I just thought that, man, it's too big a line, and these guys don't know who their best players are yet. So how are we going to cover in this? Um, I would just say, like, don't get too down, guys. Like, it's okay. We won the game. People are going to laugh at us, and they have every right to a little bit because we talked a lot in the offseason as a program. Yeah, worst four guys were Pope, Will Thomas, and Chief Borders easily. Um, I wouldn't have even thought Idaho State would hang. I doubt they're actually that good. I don't know that Idaho State is actually that good of a team. I don't know what their record's going to be this season, but I will give a little bit of credit to Idaho State in the fact that I thought their coaching staff, was pretty well prepared, and their guys really went out there and gave it their all. And because UNLV just didn't have it and doesn't, I think Idaho State has nothing to be ashamed of. They were asking their quarterback to do a lot, and he made a bunch of mistakes. But I walk away from that Idaho State game saying, good job. But yeah, it was a tough day, guys. And like the thing is, tough games happen for every team. And I was just like I was talking about, I think I got a little sidetracked, but Oregon last season, number one team in the country, but early on in the season, they were in a 1-score game with the University of Idaho. So not even this team, Idaho State, but the Vandals. Now the Vandals are not a bad team by any means, but they're an FCS team. But Oregon was the number one team in the country. At least at that time, or I don't know if they were number one ranked at that time, but teams sometimes in early season games will struggle. It's not uncommon. It happens. And the only thing that matters ultimately, today it sucks. It hurts. It stings a little bit. The only thing that matters ultimately is how you play next week, how we play against Sam Houston. That's the only thing that actually matters. Let's talk about some of the individual players a little bit. Yeah, we brought in 50 new guys, a whole new staff. There's going to be growing pains, obviously. I totally agree, Banana Man. Let's just kind of dive into the stats here a little bit. Rough game, guys. Goodness, man. I felt like I aged about 10 years during that thing. It sucked. Let's share screen here and let's jump into the stats. So, go through the players, I guess. We'll start with the quarterback position because that's the most interesting position. I actually thought our quarterback play was pretty good today. Now, it wasn't perfect. Anthony Calandria in the fourth quarter, when we could have been up by 2 touchdowns, took a really stupid sack. At least we could have made a field goal. And Anthony Calandria wasn't perfect. He was 15 of 21, 195 yards, almost about 9.5 yards per attempt, per completion, sorry. Touchdown, no interceptions. I thought he was fine. Alex Orji threw for 37 yards, 12.5 yards completion per completion. UNLV, the offense, throws for 232 yards, average yards per completion, 9.7 yards. I actually thought both Anthony Calandria and Alex Orji played fine today. I don't think they were problems. They were not the reason UNLV was struggling. Calandria, I think, is the better player. I actually think he's just as good of a runner of Orji. No, they're not the same type of runners. Obviously, Orji is more of a power runner. But I thought that Anthony Calandria was awesome. I didn't really have any problems with him. I didn't, besides that goal line fumble, which was devastating early on in the game. I don't really have a problem with how either quarterback played, and I can live with how both of them played, despite that fumble by Alex Orji. They're not the story here. Neither is Jet Thomas. Jet Thomas ran for 147 yards, 14.5 yards a carry. He had a 70-yard run, 3 touchdowns. Jet Thomas was awesome. 10 carries. I can't complain about that. I think UNLV's got a good running back. Their line just and then they rushed for 300 yards. So it's like, yes, their line was struggling. And a lot of these rushing yards were not because UNLV's offensive line pushed around Idaho State. They were more just because Jet Thomas is a really good player, and Anthony Calandria is a really good runner. He ran 13 carries, 93 yards. That's too many carries for Anthony Calandria. Ultimately, I think we're gonna have to do a few less carries than that. Alex Orji ran 6 times for 34 yards. He was solid in the run game, except again, of course, for that fumble. He had an 11-yard run at his long. I thought Jalen Glover was okay, 28 yards, 4 yards average. Had a 9-yard carry in the fourth quarter. Kevon Lee, I don't know why he played. Look at this. He had 5 carries for 5 yards. Come on. What are we doing here? This staff just feels like they were opening up the roster to have too many guys play. And I don't think that Kevon Lee can get a ton of time unless obviously there's an injury, of course. But so the rushing game, The running backs themselves, I thought, got better as the game went on. There's still room to grow there, but Jet Thomas is a really good running back. Anthony Calandria is, I think, and Alex Orji are both pretty good quarterbacks. And ultimately, at the most important offensive positions, UNLV is not in a world of trouble. Let's talk about their receiving game. Again, UNLV had 232 yards receiving. Again, Kevon Lee had a I don't know why he played. JoJo Earl got in a little bit. He's a previous 5-star slot receiver. Two receptions for -1 yards. Nothing great there. Look at how many guys caught passes here. I mean, and look, that's not unheard of. I mean, Idaho State, I believe, had the same number of guys catching passes, but I just felt like we aired it out a bit too much when guys like Jaden Bradley, Troy Omier, those guys are clearly our number one and number two. We're going to need something from guys like JoJo Earl in the receiving game, I think, because I don't think Troy and Jaden can do it on their own. But ultimately, the offense. The problem with the offense was not the skill position players, was not the quarterback, was not the running back. It was the line. They were just they were not working well together. And often for an offensive line that is completely rebuilt, essentially, like that's not uncommon. And so luckily, Sam Houston will also be dealing with a lot of turnover on their offensive line, and UNLV will have tape. Now, Sam Houston will also have tape on UNLV, but hopefully I'm not overly concerned about the offense. There are warts. There are things we need to fix. The offensive line is not great. I think that there's ways that they can improve. I will give credit to that Idaho State staff in terms of what they were calling to try and disrupt the UNLV offense. I thought that they, used their talent in the best way possible. And so I'm not gonna lose any sleep over the UNLV offense tonight. What I will lose some sleep over is the UNLV defense. Oh my gosh. This is one of the worst performances I can remember from a Rebel team. This felt like the UNLV Southern game. If you remember the basketball game where Kevin Kruger lost in game 1 to UNLV to Southern University and basically ruined his coaching career. UNLV's defense, I do not know who some of these guys are. I don't know why they got in. I don't think they had very much to offer. UNLV did get 4 interceptions. Lawrence Welch had 2 interceptions. I thought he was one of the better players. Marcel McDuffie had an interception. UNLV got bailed out when Amaris Brown got an interception in the end zone. UNLV got so bailed out. I mean, and to be fair, like we bailed out Idaho State too. So I think it kind of evens itself out. But it was the UNLV defensive line. They were horrific. They were awful. It is a terrible sign for a team when your safety is your leading tackler. Jake Pope is a player that I like as an individual. As an individual, I think he's kind of a fun guy. He obviously previously played at Georgia and Alabama. He had some issues with coaches there. I don't know the specifics about how that all went down. I just know that there were some issues. And Jake Pope had a pretty solid game. And correct me if I'm wrong, but UNLV had Idaho State at 3rd and 19. Jake Pope drives in there, forces an incomplete pass, and all of a sudden, gets an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty that basically keeps UNLV was just about to take off and do really well in the game. And Jake Pope comes in and gets an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty and really stalls UNLV's defense. And I think as a leader, as a guy with discipline, I think he had to be better today. I would say guys like Amaris Brown, McDuffie was fine. I mean, McDuffie is one of our returning captains. He's a very talented player, but he was injured a lot of last season. And, he was good last year. He was good. But, our linebacking core is clearly missing some guys. And there's some injuries, there's some injuries on the defensive side, even before the season starts. But there's a lot of work to do. I'm worried about Chief Borders. I thought was disappointing a little bit in his first game. I was expecting more from him. I don't think he was good. And some of these guys, I was really disappointed with the defensive line. They could not get sacks. They could not get pressure on that Idaho State quarterback. And ultimately, there's just a lot of question marks, guys. There's a lot of question marks. A guy that I'll shout out is the one that everybody loves is Justin Flo. I thought he was good. I thought he should have gotten more playing time. He was one of the better players on the defensive side of the ball today, and he was a previous 5-star recruit. And I think he actually was one of the guys that I hope that he was kind of one of the guys that gets some more playing time going into next season. Will Thomas should have his scholarship rescinded. I don't know that that's fair. He was a first year. He's been in the program for a while, but yeah, I was really not okay with how our offensive line played. They were playing scared. Jordan Dove says Jet Thomas is next level NFL talent. He could be. Offensive line not good. Haynes not dressed. Grades marijuana. Jet obviously won this game offensively, broke many tackles, turned nothing into big plays. Offense will score. Defense is in huge trouble. No line pressure. Yeah, I think that this is kind of what I came to. This is kind of what I came to on the defensive side. I'll give you my evaluation, and then you guys can tell me if you think I'm right or if I'm wrong. I think we're going to have to change around our scheme a little bit. I don't love our personnel. I mean, we don't have the worst players ever. Like we're not. If we play like we played today, we're going to be one of the worst top or bottom 5 defenses in all of college football. I don't quite think we're that bad, but I think we're going to have to change around the ways that we scheme our defensive. Paul Gunther, man, I do not think that the staff did a good enough job to prepare for this game. I do not think that they gave Idaho State the respect that they deserved. And if a team comes and plays you in your stadium, I don't care if they're FCS, you give them respect and you prepare for them and you get to know them and you do everything. I felt like everything. It was just like it felt like Gunther was just basically trying to play defense on Madden, where he was turning his brain off and picking a zone coverage and saying, "Oh, we're good," And the players were miscommunicating. I don't feel like they were empowered by the staff, and ultimately, it was just bad. And they know it. Here's the thing, guys. Like this coaching staff, they know it. And I don't think that if they come out next week, I don't think they'll have the same exact defensive philosophy. I don't think they will play the same guys. I don't think they will. I think they're gonna use this tape, use this game experience. A lot of these guys haven't coached in a while, and a lot of these guys haven't played. They're gonna use this game and they're gonna figure something out. And I get it if you want to bury UNLV, but they did win. And if you want to bury them after a loss, I think that that's more fair. I think some of the hype was probably a bit too much, but basically all I'm saying is we will know more about this team next week. One game aberrations happen all the time. Can this defense be better? Probably. And yeah, like Brian, Idaho State's a tricky little team. And I said this in the pregame. I said I was worried about them. I'm worried about every team we play this year. Just because I don't know what to expect. And I still don't feel like I know what to expect. I really don't. So I'm going to dive into the film and see what we can find out, see what we can learn from this game. Again, like we got a good quarterback. Like I think our quarterback position is going to be fine. We got a really good running back. We have a offensive line that has issues, but is not unfixable. We've got an offensive system that has issues, but is not so bad that they're I don't think the offensive line is like beyond saving. Like I think there's still some talent there. Master Rebel says Jet Thomas looks like Genty did at the start of last season. I will say that Jet Thomas seems like he like tried to build his body out like Ashton Genty. I mean, I don't think they're that I don't think they're that different in height. And I think that Jet Thomas, I think we can run him a lot. And yeah, I mean, we did get paid $1.75 million for that game. Vinny left in the third quarter. I don't blame you. It was just painful. Man, I'm not sure those Idaho State's interceptions were some of the worst I've ever seen. Yeah, Idaho State definitely gave us some favors in this one. I can't see a world where our defense gets any better. Well, it can't get any worse. It's going to be pretty tough to play worse defense than that. So, I mean, like they may not get good, and I think our defense is ultimately what's going to hold us back from being a very good team this year. I still think there's a chance that UNLV could end up being a pretty good team this year, but our defense is probably going to hold us back from being a very good team. But they can get better. I will say on a positive note, Calandri looked solid and Jet looked really good. Yes, absolutely. Jet produced like Genty, just saying, yeah, it's going to be tough to live up to Genty, but I definitely think Jet. And this is the other thing that I thought. Jet was barely even played in the second half. I mean, what are we doing here? Calandria looked like he cared. Yes, Calandria is a baller. He's going to keep us in games. He deserves credit. He was running out of the pocket when the offensive line got beat. Idaho State was bringing a lot of pressure. They knew, I think, that our line was vulnerable, and they were exploiting that pretty well, to their credit. Dejon Reynolds has to be involved more. Could not agree more. Jaheim Joseph was the best player in defense today. I agree. Also, Gunther had zero idea how to play color match personnel, and it just exposed them all game. Yeah, I don't know that Paul Gunther can be a defensive coordinator. I do not know. I don't think he can do it. They're going to use tape like a live scrimmage. Yeah, that's basically what this game was. It felt like a closed scrimmage that we were all like one of, you know how they have those preseason closed scrimmages in college basketball. It felt like a closed scrimmage that for some reason they just forgot to lock the doors and keep us out. That's what that game felt like. Any other comments here? I want to make sure I don't miss any guys, because sometimes the comments don't always pick up in the right. I think our fans will appreciate Barry Odom a lot more after the season. I mean, I wouldn't say that we don't appreciate Barry Odom. Who knows? I think that Barry Odom's a great coach, and I miss him, and I wish we still had him at UNLV. I think that would be better. We'd be better off right now. But I still like the long term and the potential of Dan Mullen. And I'm really interested to see kind of what he says post game. I want to know what he has to say about his defense. I mean, there's no way that game was acceptable. And so, yeah, there was a bunch of guys that transferred. Jack Haas, the kicker who transferred to USC, that sucked. Caden Chittenden, losing him kind of sucked. He was a better kicker. Our kicking situation is scary, man. I don't know if we have a good kicker. I don't know if we can make field goals. And so a lot of holes, guys, a lot of holes. And there's room to grow. We're 1-0, and a couple hours from now, nobody's going to care about this game, and it's not going to hang over our head, and we can just move on and, treat UCLA like it should have been, like it was meant to be, as our real home opener. And this was just a scrimmage that we got a 1 for. We got a 1 in our record for. I think that's the only way you can treat this game. I don't think as a fan that we can really linger on this one at all. Next week at Sam Houston, the season begins. We're 0-0 in my opinion. This game's not going to kill us. It's not going to hurt us, and it will bring down the hype around UNLV. Hey, maybe that's a good thing. Maybe our guys needed to be humbled a little bit and not buy into the hype so much. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it's a good thing. Maybe they needed to know, hey, you're not as good as you think you are. And yeah, there's some things to like on this roster. It's not all bad. We got a ways to go, though, guys. We got a ways to go. We're vulnerable. That's for sure. We're vulnerable, and we're going to have a whole week of noise and build up to this Sam Houston game. And we're just going to see how the guys do. So, guys, I'm going to end it out there. I will do a show where I'll do film review. Film review will be the next thing that'll go up. That'll come up tomorrow, I believe. I'll have film review up. We will pull up the game tape and we will go through the plays individually together and kind of see what we can find. But thank you so much for checking out the show, guys. I really appreciate it. You guys are just, UNLV has amazing fans, and we're not all perfect, but there's so many good people in this community. And I hope that you will shoot me a DM at the games. I'd love to meet up with you. I'd love to come shake your hand. And let me know where you're tailgating before. I'll stop by and say hi. And I appreciate you, Jordan. You're awesome, man. You guys are great. And thank you, Brian. I appreciate you too. Let's go listen to the Mullen presser and let's find out what we got. Guys, thank you so much. And let's run, Rebels.